Hello and welcome to KS News. Today we have news on the Year 7s and how they're progressing, door restrictions and whether they should exist, the new school day and if the students at Tallis agree with it. Then lastly, new teachers and how they're finding Tallis. We will now go to Cavan interview at the Year 7.
First of all, we had the chance to interview the new Year 7s to see how they're getting on at Tallis in their first few weeks. Let's find out. How was your first day at secondary school?
It was good, but it was funny because I was late and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. How does it compare to your primary school?
A lot of things, like all different teachers in different lessons, period, times of like lessons, what time you finish, what you do, and more fun.
Was you scared of starting secondary school?
Not really.
Do you prefer your primary school to now?
No.
What lessons do you enjoy the most that you didn't do in primary school?
What here?
Mhm.
Oh, it's hard. Wood tech.
Okay. Have you improved a lot in your education since you started Tallis?
Yeah, I think I've improved because I've been listening more and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. That's all we need. How was your first day at secondary school?
My first day at secondary school was I was a bit nervous, but then when I got into my tutor room, I was just sort of settled in quite quickly and I made a lot of friends.
Okay. How does it compare to your primary school?
It doesn't really, well it does because you've got different lessons here and you have lunch together, but at primary school you have lunch at different times, so yeah.
Okay. Were you scared when you first started Tallis?
I was just a bit nervous, not really that scared.
Do you prefer your primary school?
Well, I prefer my primary school and my secondary school because I both like them, so yeah.
What lessons do you enjoy that you didn't do in primary school?
Technology.
Why?
Because I'm doing wood tech and I've never actually really held a saw properly, so yeah. Or a chisel.
Okay. Have you improved a lot in your education at Tallis?
Well, I used to be really not really good at science, but now I'm improving in it, so yeah.
Okay, thanks. That's all we need.
Door restrictions at Tallis create issues. These consist of not enough time in between lessons, causing students to be late and crowded always. This can lead to injuries and accidents. Over to Cavan.
Ever since we moved into the new school, there has been several door restrictions that have been placed to stop us from getting access to certain parts of the building during lunch. We'll now go to Mr. Dean to talk about this and see why they're there.
Okay, who decides what doors are accessible?
I decide with the help of my colleagues on the senior leadership team which doors are accessible at what times during the day, what time they open, what time they close.
Do you think it is fair that students don't have access to parts of the school?
It's not about fairness, it's about health and safety. We have a duty of care, which means that we have to be in control of every student that's on the school site. And this site is, building-wise, is 20,000 square metres. And so we have to keep a control of where people are, know where they are and know that they're safe.
Yeah. Why aren't we allowed through the reception doors?
The reception was never designed as being the main entrance of the school. It is a feature. It is for parents, visitors to come through. The sixth one were allowed through there because there's a smaller number of them. And the design is such that if we had nearly 2,000 people running through there, as in every morning, every afternoon, every break time, it would be freezing in the winter because the doors would be open all the time. The other side of the buildings, we've got 6 different entrances for you to come in. So it actually makes it safer to not have people coming through the same entrance.
Why aren't students allowed into the blocks at lunchtime?
Again, health and safety. We have to be able to say that people are safe, that they are secure in what they're doing. I would love to be able to open the blocks up every day at lunchtimes and break times. What it needs is the cooperation of the whole community, as in the students as well as the staff.
Thank you.
Since September there have been at least 10 new teachers starting at Thomas Tallis School. Most students don't know the new teachers yet, so we wanted to find out how the new teachers feel about Tallis. Over to Cavan talking to a new teacher.
I've been teaching at my previous school for 12 years. My old head teacher knows the area. He had a nephew that had just left the sixth form, So we knew the school, knew the area, and said it's a fantastic school, and the time was right for me to move to the next level of teaching.
Thomas Tallis has recently been undergoing a lot of changes. Students have had to adapt to the new time schedule, which is 10 minutes extra break, 15 cut-off lunch, and we leave school 10 minutes earlier. Back to Kevin on this story.
We have had a series of changes over the last year within the new school day. We will now go to one of our teachers about this story.
Right, the new school day, I think, was a decision made by, it was certainly a decision made by senior management, because anything like that needs to be made by senior management. So I believe Mr. Gregg and possibly Mr. Parker while they were still here. They changed the new school day because they believed that lunch was too long, and that at the end of lunchtime students were getting bored and were getting kind of hyperactive, and so were consequently going to period 5 lessons a bit sort of excited and crazy because the end of lunch was too long, they had nothing to do apparently, and were therefore getting bored and kind of going a bit crazy.
You think, you think this had a positive impact or a negative?
I'm not sure if it had a positive impact or not. It's kind of, different people will have different opinions about that. For me personally, because I stay in school till 5 o'clock, it didn't have a kind of positive impact in getting to go home early or finishing the school day earlier. I personally thought that I preferred to have an hour-long lunch because that meant that there was actually time for me to eat and do some work on my lunch, whereas for 45 minutes it's not long enough. And also, lunch clubs for students now aren't really long enough. 45 minutes isn't long enough for a club to run, for you to do activities that you would like to during lunch. But having a longer break was a good idea, and I like having a longer break because, again, between my period 2 and period 3 I usually have to do something to prepare the lessons, to get set up, and having a longer break meant I was able to do that.
Okay, has there been any complaints from teachers and students of the new timetable?
Complaints?
Yeah.
It's hit and miss, to be honest. Some students are happier having a longer break and are probably happier going home earlier. I imagine most students are happy going home earlier, but there will be some that think that it isn't long enough, for example, for students to queue up and get their lunch, and it feels like a big rush to get all your food and eat it and kind of have a bit of time to relax as well. I know sixth formers don't particularly enjoy the shorter break because most of them, because they're allowed to go out of school, go over to Dover, and what happens is there's definitely not enough time because there ends up being queues in the cafe or the takeaway, and there's not enough time for them to get the food that they want to get. Teachers, I would, again, it will be hit and miss. Some will say it's a good thing, some a bad thing.
Okay, and if you had the opportunity, would you make any changes to the timetable?
Would I make any changes? Honestly, after the changes we've had in the last 2 or 3 years, no. I think we should stick with what we've got and keep that for a few years, because to keep changing things is too much. It's too confusing for people, and students forget, to be honest. I still get students who come back late after lunch because they don't realise when period 5 starts now, because lunch changed. So for them to change it again, it'd just be too confusing.